Hello and welcome to the Last Review Show. My name is David Edgecombe and I'm joined by
Joel Linger
and
Roy van Landschoot.
Excellent job, guys. You can find Last Review Show on social media at Last Review Show on the Twitter. Find us at lastreviewshow.com.
Yes.
And you can also find us on SoundCloud. Or on YouTube. Search the Last Review Show, and then scroll down a bit and find our faces.
Yes, go to page 700, and then you finally find us instead of the last picture show.
Yes, indeed. So, what are we looking at today, guys? We are looking at in the next hour, we're going to be talking films. You probably knew that if you're watching already, or you've read the description in YouTube or SoundCloud. We'll be discussing films, and there's going to be loads of spoilers. So if you haven't seen any of the films that I'm about to read out to you, then go and watch them. Or if you don't care about spoilers, I actually know a guy that he just reads loads of Wikipedia synopses and then talks about films as if he's seen them.
It's a cheap way of doing it.
It is quite cheap, yeah. So we're going to be talking about Get Out, the recent film, first directorial debut from Jordan Peele of Peele and Key. We'll be looking at Scarface, the 1983 Brian De Palma film, famous gangster one with Al Pacino. I'm sure you know about it. And then we'll be briefly having a look at the Star Wars franchise, if we can keep that short.
Yes, only how many films? Like 7, 8 films, if you don't count the animation movies. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah,
it's about billions. About billions.
No, I'll be fine.
Lots of
money.
Fine.
Yeah.
So, Get Out. Do you want to give us a synopsis just to remind us, Joel?
Yes, of course. So, as you already said, it's the directorial debut of Jordan Peele. And he also has written the screenplay for this. Came out earlier this year.
I think I said Peele and Key rather than Key and Peele. Wrong way around.
Yeah, I think the sketch show is called Key and Peele. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's starring Daniel Kaluuya. I don't know why we always have these difficult to pronounce names, but
we should practice this beforehand.
Yeah, we should. We? Yeah, definitely.
Kaluuya.
Yes. Alison Williams and Kathleen
Williams. And Kathleen Kiena.
Really, yeah, whatever, dude. It has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes and 84 on Metacritic. Pretty highly rated. Now, it's a bit early for award season, but they won already 2 MTV Movie Awards, which everybody cares about, of course.
Wow, that is the big one, isn't it?
Yes, they won the Next Generation Award for Daniel Kaluuya and the Best Comedic Performance for Lil Rel Howery. He is the TSA agent, the comic relief guy.
Okay.
So if you're the comic relief and you win the best comedic performance, I guess you've done what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
The film is about Chris, who's a black guy who is dating this white girl, and then he goes to meet her family for the first time. He's a little bit worried if she told him that he's black, but she didn't. But it shouldn't be a problem, she claims. And then he goes to the house, it's like in a rural area, not a lot of people around there. And then obviously things go a little bit wrong, to use an understatement. It is this horror film, officially, and thankfully not gore and all that other stuff. And that's basically what the film is about mean white people.
We're really mean.
Absolutely. Yes.
After this, actually, we're gonna trap Joel.
Yes.
We're gonna fool him into staying at Roy's flat.
Oh God!
For some reason.
Yeah, it's also suspicious though. But now we're talking about Get Out. The recording is not at my place, but in the Roy's.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For once, we're recording it somewhere else.
Yeah. It's very suspicious. Yeah.
Actually, we've got Roy's parents are coming over.
Yes, they're coming over. Yes.
Haven't told them that you're black, of course.
This is actually getting scary, guys. So let's move on.
Did you find it scary?
No, the funny thing was I'm not that much into horror, and one of the main reasons is because for me it's not scary at all. You know, like 99% of the horror films I've seen, I just find it more funny than scary, and usually it's unintentional when people are laughing their eyes out, if it's an expression, during a horror film. Now this I didn't find it particularly scary per se, even though I have a white girlfriend, so like I'm a little bit skeptical about the family reunion I'm going to soon. But other than that, it wasn't so scary for me. But I did like very much the build up of tension. Like I mean, it builds up slow and slow. You start noticing things that are wrong, things that you maybe cannot put your finger on per se, but it's. You can obviously tell this is a horror film, something has to go wrong, of course. And if you've seen the trailer, you know that the black guy is in trouble. But the way I think the tension is built up did make it, for me at least, thrilling,
Yeah.
I wasn't, like other than the upcoming family reunion, I wasn't like scared and that I couldn't sleep or anything. But I found it thrilling enough. And I found the way that they, that the plot plays out, I find it better. Because it's smarter, I think, than the average horror film, I think. So that's what made it thrilling for me, I should say. Yeah.
They did ratchet up the tension from the start, right, Roy?
Yeah. They, I think the first scene is one of the first victims you will see later on.
Yeah.
The first scene is played out with the guy who is later like coupled to an older white woman.
Yeah.
And it's the first big reunion where Chris is attending, and there he gets introduced to this guy, and he tries to make contact with him, and he acts very strange. He doesn't act in a normal way, according to Chris, and that is one of the moments where Chris is really thinking like, I mean, this is probably just some sort of trap.
I would have thought, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
From the start, I would have been. I mean, I know the main character, Chris. That's his name. The Daniel Kaluuya character. He should have been really skeptical from the very start. So a bit suspicious, because if you're going to see someone's parents, you would have assumed maybe that you'd, especially nowadays, you would have sent them like a picture of the person or spoken about them a bit, and surely with just a little bit of background, they would have at least worked out that he was black. Obviously, they know that he's black, but she tries to make it as if she hasn't told them.
Yes,
I think you would.
It's also part of the trap, in this sense.
Yeah.
If she.
But if I were dating a black girl, I think I might tell my parents she's black. Not that my parents like care. But for some reason, it's a detail.
No. I mean, I think within the logic of the movie, it's kind of a thing.
Well, also because they're not together that long, I think, like because.
Because she turns them over quite quickly, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think they're either 4 or 6 months, but it was an amount that I was also a little bit like, I'm not really sure, that's also for me, because they're not together that long. I would have left sooner. Because like I wouldn't take that kind of crap, from family of a girl that I'm, with for 4 or 6 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're together for years, then you might consider spending the rest of your life together. You might take a little bit more crap than that. But I personally would have, like for a girl that I've only been with that short amount of time, I'd be like, this is too much. I'm out. For sure. So
it was kind of the film. Obviously, it's dealing with race, but particularly with the racism that can occur in genteel white society, where maybe people don't think they're racist.
Exactly.
Where they say things like, "Oh yeah, black people, they're really strong," or whatever, or physically so they're perfect specimens or whatever, and. What did you think? How did you feel about that?
Well, for me, it was like one of the strong things about this film is because that's one of the things that for me as a person can also be a little bit frustrating because you have, and one of the reviewers said, very well, what he said was like, a lot of people are like the people at that, party, reunion, event, whatever it was, because they are the people who donate money to the ACLU, who see themselves as people who will fight for the rights of black people and see themselves as a friend to all minorities, but they are the people who say some of the most racist stuff ever without even realizing it. And I think that's one of the things that that the film showed in a quite a good way, without, I feel like, making it overly heavy or making it overly finger pointy, and that's what I think is one of the strong sides of this film, definitely.
I thought you were going to say they say all the right things, they donate to the ACLU, they think they're not racist, and then they go and transplant black people's brains into their heads.
That's a little bit. I was thinking the same. So, but actually, the white people in this film are actually within the horror tropes. They are very evil. Yeah, but of course it is a genre thing. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not saying that that there are white people in America who will act themselves out as that. But then again, that is. I think that there it's really like balancing on a very tight rope. So it might also actually you could also read into it that there are more enlightened white people who are actually playing this. They're much more bound to these old notions of racism and of dividing the country on class and on race.
I'd like to talk more about how the actual film plays out and the composition of it, but I'm still very interested in this this social commentary side. I'd like to know, Joel, if this is something that did you really find it something that you could really recognise?
In some parts, yes. I mean, the stupid remarks about being strong or being this or being that. I mean, I've experienced stuff like that and worse. You know what I mean? So that's definitely something that I could relate to, and for me, that's always very realistic as well. That was very realistic because it actually happens, and sometimes it's also a little bit to do with the difference in generation, because I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it or anything, but for some people, they were used to the pseudoscience. Okay, maybe that's a little bit longer ago, but some people, were there for when people actually said, that black people were inferior, or if you have lived through Jim Crow and things like that, then for you, it was, back in those days with the lynchings, for example, it were not the rednecks or anything. It was, if you see the pictures of things like that, it was the dentist, the surgeon, the baker. It was the normal people who were there watching and enjoying seeing a black person lynched, you know what I mean? So for them, it's sort of a transition, that now, most normal people in the United States see everyone as equal. But I mean, they sort of like maybe unintentionally still have sort of like racist notions that they don't don't even see themselves. You know what I mean? And that's that's something that I very much recognize. Even though these people obviously were sort of also pretending, because the things that they said, I don't think those people were actually evil. So they were not like good people who were ignorant of their own fault. They were actually bad people. But I do recognize that you have people who consider themselves good people, but who are ignorant without realizing it.
But I guess there are a lot of people who really do well to hide their underlying quite aggressive racism, and maybe this is quite an apropos film for our times with the rise of nationalism and Trump and things like that.
Populism,
right, and people feeling like, this latent racism that they can let the beast out, kind of, maybe, I don't know.
And good that you say that, because that's also why the ending changed, actually, because initially Chris was going to get arrested at the end of the film, for murdering all the people on the premises.
I thought that was going to happen.
I thought also that was going to happen, but because of everything that has happened recently with the shootings of unarmed black people and the rise of Black Lives Matter and things like that. Jordan Peele felt that the audience deserved a happy ending, so that's why he doesn't get arrested in the end, but gets saved by the TSA agent.
I really hated white people like during the film. I was like, kill the white people! Kill those bloody white people!
I actually thought that it was kind of on purpose in the sense that most people, especially people who are who also might have underlying racist notions, that I expected it to be a cop which is white and will use that. Use it as a, so he will never win, the black
it's
protagonist,
quite interesting.
the black protagonist. But then it actually reversed my notion that only cops in films can be white.
No, I don't think so. I think the film was pushing you to assume that because the girl got up to like, she suddenly thought, oh, I can use my white privilege and go, oh no, help me. So I thought that was quite interesting. That part.
But it didn't happen.
And then it didn't happen. Oh, that was great. Did you have reservations about the comedy? I thought the comedy worked personally. Of course, it's Jordan Peele. He couldn't resist putting the comedic bits in. But how did you feel about it, Joel?
Well, I for me, but then again, comedy is not my genre, so I'm a little bit biased in that respect.
Hates laughing. He hates it.
But the thing is, my only problem was that the TSA agent, the friend, was for me, such a cliche, and my girlfriend, it bothered her a little bit as well, because like with the slang he used, he was loud and things like that, and I understand like if he was like this sort of like overly educated, properly talking black guy, and then he wouldn't have been the comic relief. I understand that, but to me, he was just a typical, black comedic relief kind of character. While the rest of the film is much smarter than that, and I think that's why it put me off a little bit. Like not that much, that I was taken out of the film, but for me it was not the best part of the film.
No, I kind of agree, but at the same time it also maybe took a little jab at the fact that then the comic reliefs often are only there for comic relief, and they are never really the saviors, they are kind of inept. And this
so it's like a meta commentary.
Yeah, it was like I saw that in it, but it's like he's less inept than you think. Even if he's like close to a stereotype of a comic relief character in any movie. Yeah. But he was in the end the one who saved his friend.
And figured it out.
Figured it out. He said figured it out. And of course, it was also kind of funny because he is then, one of those guys at an airport who needs to racial profile people who come from outside of the States.
Actually, you know what? This is really stupid of me. It did not. The significance of him being a TSA agent did not occur to me until you just said it.
It's like sort of.
It didn't occur to me at all.
It's a small thing.
Am I really stupid? You can tell it.
No,
tell me if I am.
No.
Yes, but not because of this.
Okay.
No, but there are small things like that in the film that I like. Also, for example, when the cops pull them over on their way to the house, then she stands up for him. But obviously it was not to sort of make a statement about white privilege or to stand up for her boyfriend, but it was to like if the cop would have run his license, then there would have been a paper trail of them being together beforehand. And the film is full of small but smart things like that. So I think that's also what I like about the film. Is that it's clever in a way. With small things like that. I think, and that's what makes it for me better than the run-of-the-mill horror film. And I think the 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, it makes it like one of 13 or 6 films, whatever, who've had that score, and I'm not going to say that this is like the best film ever, but I do feel that it's maybe one of the best horror films that I have seen for someone who doesn't really like the genre. So it's not saying much per se, but I really did enjoy the film.
I was a little bit like if it's about certain horror tropes, I really like the first scene, but then when it came to the slasher moments, so especially the last 20 minutes when just everything is
Becomes carnage.
becomes
Mhm.
carnage basically, and I was like, why is he able to kill his opponent so fast? Just
Mhm.
in general.
Mhm.
And I was like, I mean, it was very smart of him to use the cotton.
And again, you
Which-
know, there were a lot of slavery references,
Yes,
and he
slavery with the
literally
cotton,
picks
yeah.
cotton, you know,
So
to save
white
his
people
life.
don't know this. White
Yeah.
people, they're like stupid because they have no.
What was
no
that?
cotton
Remind
fields.
me. What happened?
So he was.
And he's
so
in the chair.
he was in the chair, and he was only hypnotized if he heard.
Yeah, he
the
hears
spoon in the cup.
Yeah.
And then he was like, because he felt tortured, he was clawing into the.
The sea.
And he was literally picking the cotton.
picking
Yeah,
the cotton,
exactly.
and then he
Didn't
thought,
get that.
Yeah, so it's one of the other things that is really smart about how Jordan Peele has written this is the sunken place where basically he's sent to after the hypnotizing stuff, after she does the thing with the teacup,
Mhm.
you know, and then I think when she first hypnotizes him, he just sinks to the floor. And basically then after that he's powerless, but he sees what is happening through the eyes only then from a little bit further down into the sunken place, but he cannot move and he cannot do anything.
Mhm.
So he's powerless, and that is sort of like it's supposed to portray the feeling that a lot of minorities have in the United States, especially currently now with some of the things going on over there, that minorities feel marginalized in the United States, and that's sort of what it's showing. Sort of.
So like they have no control, kind of
Control of their destiny.
the lack of control of their own destiny.
Correct.
I didn't get this at all. I didn't get that. There were loads of layers that I didn't
Yes.
get.
I was more like, because he was hypnotized, and I thought it was also it had to kind of do with being drugged,
Mhm.
being but drugged also more in the sense that that he becomes passive, so he's drugged against his will. That's what was the hypnosis, and that he has no power to move on, to literally interfere in his own story.
Mhm.
So he's always the object or the used object of the white characters in this sense. They can do anything what they want with them. That also for me refers to slavery, like
Mhm.
being treated as a tool. Yeah.
So you have that, and then he's literally picking the cotton out of the chair.
It's also a reference, I
Yeah,
suppose,
yeah.
to the working.
And then,
on
and then you have the sort of the auction,
Yes, the auction. thing.
bingo auction,
Yeah,
bingo in
yeah,
inverted commas.
yeah.
yeah.
And also a fun fact in that sense is that they were going to record it in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
but then 1 month before they were actually going to record, there were budget cuts, you know, so they were like, yeah, no, you got to find a different location. And then they shot it, and I forgot the location, it's really stupid, I apologize, but like they shot it not in Los Angeles, and Jordan Peele says, well, in retrospect it was a blessing, because he feels like the film wouldn't have been that good if they would have shot it in Los Angeles. That's what he said, you know, it really worked out well for the story. And speaking of budget, well, something that I have to mention is that they only did it on a $4.5 million dollar budget, and they made almost 250 million
Yeah.
in theaters, and still counting, you know, like it's not going to reach a 300 million probably, but not for box office sales anyway, but I mean it's a huge box office hit as well.
Well, he's
It
used.
gives him a career perspective, I suppose, because if you get so much money on such a small budget,
Mhm.
then the bigger studios will like, hey, we want to try out this guy. We want to see what he can do for us.
Yeah,
I mean, even if it's not on the, what was it, 4.5 million?
yeah,
Then
mhm.
they give him 25 million. Then you can already do
Yeah.
a lot more.
I hope that he does do that though. We like sometimes you see.
No, you don't want to sell out. I suppose.
No, I mean, but also if you think about it, like a lot of, you know, breakout directors, you know, go from 4 million or 20 million to 150 million, and
Mhm.
sometimes, you know, I think it is good to, for a couple of feature films at least, stay to, you know, what you're used to making. Like one of my favorite directors now, Denis Villeneuve, has made like four smaller films, and like the name of the actors, like their fame where their notoriety, I should say, increased. Like then for Prisoners, he already worked, with Wolverine, what's his name again, Hugh Jackman. Started working with Jake Gyllenhaal, but he did it more gradually, But I hope that Jordan Peele does the same thing. Not goes like doing a big budget, 150 million type film. I hope he doesn't.
So you basically.
I think with budgetary constraints, then you have to be more creative with a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And also you can have more control
Yes,
because there are fewer people involved.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are less people with money at stake as well. I guess,
Exactly.
right?
Yes, there's less producers watching over your shoulders. That's
Exactly.
what you often hear. There are very talented filmmakers, and then they get that shot at Disney Marvel, and then they have to handle a production budget of over $150 million, and then suddenly they feel the huge pressure of pleasing everybody. Instead of, I mean, it doesn't always happen. It also turns out good, but sometimes it must also suffocate your urge just to even just do what you want and even further experiment.
But also, I mean, it's also tough to fight that. I think about, for example, Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi disaster. Think about it. Like, so many people wanted so much stuff. Like, let's say that Disney Marvel approaches me like, Joel, you can write a next superhero film. I'd be like, okay, I might give it a go. You get that much money. Oh, great! Perfect. I'll definitely do it. And then okay, but you have to put in like 6 villains. You have to put in like Dr. Octopus and the Riddler, and that's not Spider-Man, but you know what I mean. Like 6 villains in there, and then you totally like, okay, but that changes everything. Because you don't want to put in 6 villains, but the studio wants those characters in there, and I think that's what happens a lot with big budget films, and that's actually what happened to Sony and why everything blew up in their faces. But
you can come back from it. I'm thinking specifically of David Lynch with Dune.
Yeah.
Right. He had a load of money, and then it was terrible.
Yes.
And he still managed to be productive and creative and create some of his best work after Dune. Arguably his best work after Dune.
Because he's brilliant, though.
Yeah. No, he managed to come back, so he wasn't just like thrown on the scrap heap.
No. Yeah, it was also different times though, I think. And apparently Dino Laurentiis is a famous producer who even after Dune kept helping him. In a sense.
Okay.
But that's another sense. I was actually trying to get back to Get Out. How do you guys think that, for example, could you see it next to Django Unchained?
Not at all. No comparison.
There's no comparison because I thought also the protagonist. He in the end he also shoots the whole White House literally apart. So he's the only the black survivor, the hero. Instead of it's trying to how do you say that revisionistic. It's revisionistic of certain genre of the Western and the Gothic Western. And Get Out is also kind of revisionistic of horror, in a sense. Or is that a wrong comparison? Just
I don't see.
Is it so that is the only comparison really the black person getting their
their revenge and getting their revenge against the white dominator.
Sorry.
Getting over, but also the fact that they are actually the protagonist. And they're
but I think it's more of a symptom of the fact that we don't have that many black protagonists more than anything else, because I don't really think that it compares to Django at all. Yeah, but I don't think that it compares with Django at all, personally.
Okay. For maybe sort of
Roy does, so
so
maybe it's something. So Get Out, great. Guys, I really enjoyed Get Out, and I've enjoyed talking about it too.
Me too, yeah, definitely.
Would you see it again? I think I would watch it again.
Me too, definitely, yeah.
I think that can actually be that's our benchmark of whether it's a good film. Would you see it again?
Especially with my parents, yeah.
Okay, interesting. now I'm afraid to ever meet your parents. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on and talk about Scarface. Roy, Tell us about Scarface. If people don't already know about Scarface, I actually watched it for the first time. To talk about this, I watched it for the first time.
Yes, yes. That's why we're talking about it. You
Yeah.
watched it for the first time, and you.
And I said I wanted to talk
it's
about
the
it.
1983 Scarface.
The 1983 Scarface,
Because
not the
there's-
1930 what? 1930.
31 or 32. Just shoot me when I'm wrong. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
it's
not sure,
32,
but that
yeah.
is a movie directed by Howard Hawks. This movie is
That one,
directed by Brian De Palma from great films like
Carrie, The Untouchables.
Carrie, The Untouchables.
Mission Impossible.
Yes, Mission Impossible. The first one, yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yes, that's why it's called Mission Impossible.
No,
Not Mission
okay.
Impossible.
Oh, that's
2.
why. Yeah, it says. I thought it was the first Scarface. Yeah. And,
So it's a remake.
It is kind of a remake. Yeah, it kind of has an other ethnic origin also. I
Yes.
think in the first Scarface it's more about an Italian
Correct.
American criminal, and this Scarface has the Cuban connection, and the main character is called Tony Montana, played by Pacino. He leaves
By an Italian family.
yes,
Italian
it's
American.
indeed, yeah. And he leaves Cuba at the end of the 70s, and he gets into the drug trade, and he rises up the ladder very fast by using his little friend, which is basically a gun. And yes, and he says, the movie is, for me, is also a bit like that. He says like, first you need to get the money, then you will get the power, and then the women. He doesn't say it like that, he says it's much better than me. That's how the movie is basically built up.
Yeah.
And then it's a rise, and then
The Fall.
the fall.
Uh,
A classic.
Can I say one dumb thing? Like we're dumb. Like I had forgotten that Oliver Stone actually had written this.
Yes, Oliver
I
Stone
had
is the-
forgotten that because I'm so used to him, Oliver Stone, directing the films that he writes, but he actually has like 6 or 7 films that he's only done the screenplay for. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that.
I think that's also why there is more political context in this movie than in most of Brian De Palma's movies,
Mhm.
which some would say they're like great variations on Hitchcock themes, and then done 15 times over, like Hitchcock did his film sometimes, twice, like in the 30s and then in the 50s, because he had a bigger budget. But yeah, it has a bit more of a political color to it.
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely
And
tell.
I think that is the influence of Stone mainly.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah.
And with before really rather unknown Pfeiffer, right?
Yeah,
She
Mr.
wasn't
Pfeiffer.
known. Pfeiffer, who was originally Al Pacino, said no to her. Originally, he rejected the suggestion of whoever the casting director was.
But unfortunately, he wasn't the Godfather
Oh man!
in this movie.
Oh
But
god!
do you know why? Why did he? Because I didn't know that. Why did
Yeah,
he
why did
reject
he?
her? Do you know
I
that?
don't. I think he wanted someone who was well known.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But she's ravishing in it, and she's also. I mean, ravishing.
That's a great word. She is ravishing in it.
But
She is.
she looks like she's falling apart, but
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
same time, it's like, yeah,
That's something about
Like-
what you prefer, but yeah.
you could say that.
Do you like the film, Roy?
Jeez, that's a very difficult question to answer. Yeah, for me it's very difficult because I've had a sort of a hate-love relationship with this movie. The first time I saw it, I was like, come on, this is just so many stereotypes and so many, like things I've seen in countless of gangster movies which were called B in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
or like the whole legacy it has as a cult movie for certain groups of people. Would like say that Tony Montana is super cool, and he curses at women. He's a big misogynist. He kills people. He deals drugs. Cool, man. The movie, you could kind of take that out of it. That he's like cool in the sense he does what he wants, but he basically at the end, he's a mess.
He's a dick from the start.
He's a dick from the start, but he's also a mess.
Like, you wouldn't want to be around him. You can tell from the start he's really wild and out of control.
Yeah.
like an animal from the start,
Mhm.
right? I don't really understand why Manny, the dude played by Stephen, I'm going to read it out, Stephen Bauer, who was the only Cuban in the production, the only genuine Cuban with a German name. I wouldn't understand why that character, the Manny character, who then becomes his kind of right-hand man, why he'd want to hang out with Al Pacino's, with Scarface, with Tony Montana.
Yeah, I think basically because they come out of the same situation. They're both refugees. They know each other.
I guess they just kind of flung together.
Yeah, they flung together, and they bring in that world where they are, where they're getting into. They bring the best out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in the criminal milieu, but and in the end they basically destroy each other through the sister of Tony Montana.
Oh yeah, well I thought it was a ridiculous film from the start to the finish. I'm going to be honest, especially with that stuff with the sister.
Yeah.
You know, when Manny and the sister first meet, and it's very obvious that they might as well have just had like a caption over them that says these two fancy each other.
Yeah, there's like
they like looked at each other, and then I think there might have even been like a bit of romantic music playing.
Yeah, it's just,
it was. I just found the whole thing really. I was really excited to see Scarface. Right.
Yeah.
Thought this is the classic. I'm going to tick this off my list,
Mm-hmm.
and then I found it really difficult to sit through.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Maybe you do need to consume certain goods to really appreciate it.
Oh, well, you have to be high on cocaine to or do you just mean like Cuban food? You have to.
No. Yeah, so I was saying, there are things I really don't like about the movie, and especially, but it's changed a bit because the last time I saw it on a big screen, and then I saw also it was more about the camera movements and the use of color, and
it's very garish, isn't it?
It's garish. It's so excessive.
Yeah.
It's excessive in anything. The character is excessive. Everything is there. It's like full throttle, like volume 12.
I feel like the whole film is like, you know, that the shirt that he wears in the first act of the play of the film, even the first act of the film, that Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
That is the colour scheme for the whole film.
Basically,
right?
That's
and the tone of the film is just that. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. It's also a bit breezy, a bit loose. So don't take it too serious. Let's say that. But yeah.
How could you?
Yeah, but that's the thing, because you were saying you were stepping into it like this is a classic. So
that
then
was
you
my
might
problem.
have certain expectations, and I also had them. The first time I saw it, I'm not saying for me it's now a classic. I'm saying like I start to appreciate some things of the movie more when I watched it like the first time, and it's basically just the energy, which you were saying there is none, but I do see the energy there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm not talking about the action, the set pieces with people shooting each other, but just that there's always there's something just something off, or there's how do you say that, like there's always tension.
I thought it was really flabby, the film. It went on for
Montana is always
ages.
exploding.
But
a little volcano.
But you get that, and I don't get how he could have built this empire being so unpredictable. Because once he becomes a successful gangster, he suddenly builds this huge conglomerate of different companies, right? And manages somehow to run them and launder the money without blowing up in someone's face and shooting everyone's heads off.
Which he does in the end.
He does do that in the end. Yeah. So maybe that's the whole thing, like he's just living on the edge the whole time.
So might it also not a bit like cocaine, so you feel like super good and you're super concentrated and you feel like super energetic. You can take the whole world on, the world is yours.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you get that low, and then he gets paranoid. He doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
But the only thing he to like subdue that feeling, he takes more cocaine. He wants to earn more money, he wants to get more power. But in the end, the guy who's more like sorted out and who lives in South America, it's all the cliches there again.
The main drug dealer.
The main drug dealer. He thinks like, you are like a stupid. You know, I can't expect you to run my business because you're just chasing tail and being paranoid all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then he basically blows himself up. And I mean, I saw some extras on the Blu-ray, and there were also some experts on the matter, and they said like, yeah, this guy wouldn't reach far. So like you say, so it's not realistic.
Yeah, no, I'm not expecting a documentary, obviously.
No.
But I want it to somehow be. I can invest into it because it's somehow believable and somehow plays by the rules.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was playing by the rules.
There it is. It doesn't play by the rules.
Ah, there
Let's
you
play by the
go.
rules, and I also kept like when I saw the last time I saw it, like I mean it's such a big contrast with him, with Al Pacino playing Michael Corleone, which is basically about a person who also kills, to keep a criminal family, more of a family man than as the Tony Montana. He tries to create a family.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Corleone tries to keep it together, keep the family together, and also doesn't succeed and does succeed with horrible consequences. But he is, as a character, as a person, he almost seems like this cold-blooded manager at the top of a,
Mm-hmm.
top company, and then this portrayal of the Tony Montana character is just completely the opposite, as if Al Pacino was like, I need to get away from this, to this control freak Michael Corleone, to this, loose cannon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying that he played in reaction to it, but if
Yeah.
you put it next to each other, it's almost absurd.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like, and also like, and there are also people who really are a big fan of one of the two characters, but still they're both, they're morally on the wrong side, guys. But I don't sometimes I do understand the energy of the movie, and I sometimes like to watch it, but in the end, it's, for me, for example, Michael Corleone is more believable,
Mm-hmm.
actually also more scary, because he seems to think more and destroy instead of just destroy.
He
the
seems
then
more
the Tony Montana.
kind of cold-hearted
Yeah.
and calculating.
like somebody who will kill his brother.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the dancing in the
Yes,
disco.
there is. No, I agree.
There's a couple of scenes in this particular disco which is meant to be very swanky and
Yeah.
exclusive. It looks like the worst disco ever invented.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
but it's beginning 80s. So.
Yeah, the 80s must
Just
have been
after
worse than we thought
Yeah.
because it was terrible.
And also when you make a movie in that time, partly about that time, and it already looks like you want to escape from it.
You'd
Yes.
fit in there. Yeah, go on.
Indeed. But how was the guy who was like dancing on a Sinatra song? He had his name.
No, then one
Yeah.
of the assassins who
Right.
tries to kill Montana
Yeah.
is
No, he wasn't. He wasn't an assassin. Yeah, it was just. He was actually. You were right.
no, it was not. It was
Yeah.
just this clown thing.
Yeah.
No, but I think he might have been an assassin. I think I looked Wikipedia'd it. It was this weird clown thing in. You need to see it, Joel, because Joel's forgotten about this. But there's a weird clown thing in the disco, and it's like this man in a strange.
Yeah.
It's like this strange outfit with this huge head. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But what the hell was that? I was thinking.
I do kind of think that he looks like this Italian gangster, kind of Al Capone with this really
No.
stupid hat.
Yeah, but regardless of that, all
Yeah.
the people in the disco, they seem to be loving it, and
But they're
they
all
are
cocaine.
laughing their heads off,
They're all on cocaine.
looking at this bloody weird thing.
They're all on cocaine.
I guess maybe if that's the thing, if they're all on cocaine,
You must love it.
maybe they're gonna find it. But I would just think, if I were on drugs when I saw that, I would freak out.
Yeah, okay.
I would attack it.
I think it would be then
Try and
more,
punch him through his papier-mâché head. You know?
it would be more hallucinatic drugs like mushrooms. Obviously, then you would really, and it would be too much indeed.
Yeah.
I honestly, that really brought me out of the film. That one, there was just things that brought you out of the film, like that. Also, we need to talk about
What do we need to talk about?
the montage,
The montage. Oh
the
yeah.
Tony montage.
Oh, that's a Rocky sequence. That's just Rocky,
Yeah, it's
but
basically,
then
yeah.
for Tony Montana.
Yeah,
So he just, so after that assassination, so you were talking about, I mean, there was kind of a very strong absurdist element in it. But after that, after he survives that crazy clown and the assassins,
Yeah.
he seizes the power.
So he
that
pushes
must
it to
be-
the limit.
Then he pushes it to the limit, and then
But it is like it
It's-
is the most cliched, one of the most cliched montages
Yes.
I've ever
But
seen.
it's still the end of the. It's the beginning of the 80s, so it's just I think 4 years.
Was it something
No,
they
six-
used?
I think 6
they
years
use these
after
montage
Rocky.
scenes all the time. So the montage scene, just to clarify for those of you who don't remember, Tony Montana goes from being the small-time gangster to taking over the business of his previous boss, who he kills, and becoming a real hot shot and the number one, it seems, gangster in Miami. Throughout the space of this montage, set to really, I think, quite great music. Push it to the limit.
Push it to
Right, it's real like aerobics music.
Yeah, it's,
I
the
could do.
movie is pushing it to the limit.
I could put on a leotard and do aerobics to that music. But
Not sure if you want to see that though. But
was this kind of montage? Is that just a trope throughout the early '80s?
It's an 80s thing.
no,
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it became more a trope after Scarface. I'm not saying that Scarface invented it because it's basically, I think, more from Rocky.
That was a good one, though. I enjoyed the Rocky one.
I'm not really sure because Rocky was 1976 or 74. I think no, it was same year as Taxi Driver. Anyway, so yeah, it was already used earlier, but it was not that much of a cliche, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, now it is like also because everybody makes fun of it, especially the great spoof in Team America.
Has there been a Scarface
No,
spoof?
not in Team America, but a spoof about this kind of scenes. Like you have this fast forward success story.
I would, I would love to see a Scarface spoof. Although it's already a spoof of itself, to be honest.
Yes,
you can't really make fun of something that's already funny.
You know, my problem, with Scarface. Look, first when I watched it, my expectations were high because it was considered a classic and everything like, and also a little bit not expecting to like it per se because like. It was back in the day when I still sort of watched television, like regular television.
Yeah.
And you had this program called MTV Cribs,
Yeah.
and all the rappers, had to show their copy of Scarface, and like that sort of ghetto, like hip hop, that ghetto part of hip hop and macho, the part of hip hop culture is the part that I really dislike. So that's why I also was okay. I'm going to like it or I'm going to hate it. Now, I was a little bit disappointed with the film. I didn't hate it as much as I thought it would. But it also goes a little bit to what I don't like about, people fetishize, criminal behavior. And I'm not trying to be like politically correct or anything. But for me, it also went to, for example, The Wolf of Wall Street. Because, like people who would normally, I think, I think a lot of people like Martin Scorsese films, for example, but I think some people like it really for sort of like different reasons, than I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like Wolf of Wall Street, a lot of people, wanted to be, that guy, and so a lot of people were saying like, yeah, they sort of like hated it that they weren't, alive or adults at a time where you could take advantage of people like that, but they don't think about how he destroyed his own life and pushed people away with his drug addiction, and how there are people that he swindled that actually lost their businesses, lost their marriages, people have committed suicide because of the kind of things that people did, like as in The Wolf of Wall Street, but all people see is the money, the drugs, and Margot Robbie, which helps, I must admit. And also, if you look at Al Pacino's character, the drug trade has some real negative, real life, repercussions, and and people don't think about that, but they just think about if someone got rich really fast and lives like maybe sort of a cool lifestyle, and that's also why it's a cult classic. But a lot of people who sort of like fetishize criminal behavior love it for that reason. That's what annoys me a little bit about the success of Scarface and about the success of The Wolf of Wall Street. as well. And I enjoyed Wolf of Wall Street, don't get me wrong. And I think me personally, for different reasons, because I would never, be like, it's a shame that I didn't get to rip off all those people and get rich quick. You know what I mean? Like, and even worse with the drug trade. They actually, kill people. Like you can say, like in the Wolf of Wall Street, like if you believe some of the things that someone says to take your money from you, it's also maybe your own responsibility what you do with your money. So it's my mistake. I'm an idiot. I lost my money, my house, and everything. That's on me. But like if you look at the drug trade, it makes innocent victims. And I know that it's not a documentary or anything, but I don't know, it just bothers me that people seem to like those films for the wrong reason and fetishize very controversial characters.
I'm not sure how much they do, but are you sure they do?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure. Like you have a whole movement of people, who nickname themselves Tony Montana, Tony Monta. You have a lot of rappers, like
who refer to them.
Who refer to them. Like all the MCs, having being the first thing they show in their mention, is their copy of Scarface. Things like that. I mean, it's even worse. If you can look it up online. Like people really love Tony Montana for the wrong reasons.
But then he gets shot in the back with a shotgun. That's surely there's something. It's ridiculous, isn't it? People look up to that.
Just to put it under the carpet. It's kind of. But I do think it does appeal to. You might call it a very positive. Characteristic of American spirit is that you build something up from scratch, from nothing, and also that Tony Montana, I mean the ways how he does it, I find it also repulsive and it's idiotic, but he takes no shit from another person.
Well, it's the ultimate. It is actually the ultimate, the ultimate end of uncontrolled, crazy American capitalism.
Yes.
Right.
Unbridled.
Just completely unbridled.
Just before that we know of that time of the 80s. It was before Wall Street. Also, this movie is before Wall Street.
Yeah.
So is this actually already, the kind of a practice?
So to an extent, he Scarface, because he is a cowboy, I guess. He is kind of living the American dream. You could maybe argue this is.
I mean, that is. You could also say why
are a Western.
Yeah, why are so many people always still interested in criminals and I mean, not only Americans, also Europeans love to see TV series and films because they break rules, they break laws. So, some things in our personal lives we can't really do, or we don't do, or we do in less.
You can't go out with Michelle Pfeiffer in real life.
That's also breaking a rule, yeah. Yeah. True.
So it's just satisfying some people's fantasies.
But I was actually thinking because with the link with Wall Street is very literal about the excesses and the how do you say the capitalistic excesses of American society. Very, very literal about it. But Scarface was actually already about it. Was already sort of showing that this can only, sometimes end up in one way, just destroying yourself.
Yeah, it's a film about addiction to
addiction to power
and all that, and the money and
that also the society or the people he lives among they facilitate it, and it's also seen as giving you status.
Joel, we're going to wrap this up. Would you watch Scarface again?
Well, actually, I don't remember much, so I actually probably will see it again. But I wonder if my opinion might change a little bit, But I understand why it's a cult classic, But like it would never be in my box of hey, you're on a desert island, you can only take 20 films, or maybe 100, Scarface would not be one of them.
You wouldn't show it to someone if you went on Cribs?
No, hell no. I do have it in my collection, but no. I would hide it.
You should really own it. You should. I mean, if you really want to see, you should own a copy or rent it.
Don't watch it on Netflix, because we found out that Netflix cut a load of the violence from it.
Violence, which we want to see.
The violence that Kurt Vonnegut walked out of when he watched it at the premiere. Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut and
Who
John.
wrote Slaughterhouse 5.
Yes, Kurt Vonnegut and John Irving. They both walked out of the first.
Imagine.
Yeah, of the premiere. Two of the best 20th century authors.
Get out.
Yeah, they. Would you watch it again?
Yes, but I will give it some time again.
Okay.
I have some other movies on my list.
Yeah, me too.
See first.
Okay, so we've discussed Get Out and look back at Scarface. So we're now going to discuss the Star Wars Why have we chosen to discuss the Star Wars franchise?
This I want to give him a little bit of a premise because it had to do with our little exchange, in our WhatsApp group, because we were discussing films. Maybe having a discussion of what we're going to talk about next. And then you said that you hated The Force Awakens.
Man.
And then I have to no, we have to talk about this because...
The Force Awakens.
We have to talk about Star Wars. And also I think, with the recent Star Wars Day, with May the 4th, the first trailer of The Last Jedi. It's a little bit of a Star Wars...
I still haven't seen that trailer. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, they should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm the one person in the world who hasn't seen the trailer.
So it was a good time to discuss Star Wars, and if we can talk about one film, why not talk about?
All right.
8?
Should we focus on the reboot?
Yes, but first, let's quickly discuss what happened before this and why we decided to make The Force Awakens.
Okay.
Because Star Wars, of course, was really big. Back in the day, before either of us or any
before
of us
Scarface
was born.
Is Scarface is there BS and AS before Scarface
exactly.
and after Scarface?
Yes. So it was the first one came out in 1977. So that's quite a while ago. And the first trilogy was very successful, and it was a great story because George Lucas couldn't find many people who wanted to back the film financially, so that's why, he owned most of the rights, and that's why he got really rich really fast, because he made a lot of money out of the film and nobody wanted to take the risk with him. But then he decided in the 90s to make a prequel trilogy, of course, and that was not a big success. So
well, it wasn't. He decided. He just hadn't made the prequel trilogy because he was waiting for the
computer effects.
That's the story, obviously, but the story has changed
to be good enough, right?
Yes, but the story has changed and changed and changed.
Oh, really?
When he made the first Star Wars film, it was just that. But then later, when it was successful, he said he always meant to make a trilogy, which is not true if you listen to the interviews he did when the first Star Wars was released. And after he ended the first trilogy, there were people who were saying that there was going to be a second trilogy, and he said, no, this is it. There all the other stories that are around, it's not true.
Yeah.
So he's changed his story a lot throughout the years, but fine.
More like George Lucas. Yeah.
Exactly. But the prequel trilogy was made eventually, and one of the things that people said about the first trilogy is, the less George Lucas himself was involved directing-wise and screenplay writing-wise, the better it was. And in the prequel trilogy, he ran the show, and a lot of people think that, the quality of the film suffered because of it, because he's not a very good writer, people are saying, and he's also not a great director.
So why were the first ones so beloved?
Why they were so beloved?
Yeah, if he's a bad writer.
Oh, he didn't.
They were different, right?
Yeah, he didn't write them.
The first three that came out in the 70s.
Yeah, they didn't.
He didn't write them.
I mean, maybe co-writing, but it's funny because the one for Empire Strikes Back, Lawrence Kasdan.
Yeah.
He wrote. He's writing together the new trilogy.
Yeah, they brought him back.
Brought him back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I thought I thought George Lucas was basically the auteur. And he had the idea, and he wrote them, and he directed them.
It's more complicated. There have been a lot of people working on the Star Wars script, the first script. And it also has to do with the fact that no other studio wanted to immediately take it on. So it was kept,
there's lots of hands involved. Okay, so Joel, I was enjoying your narrative.
Yes, so that was the prequel trilogy, which I think the problem with the prequel trilogy was, I think the Phantom Menace was interesting, a little bit disappointing because the expectations were like unreasonably high, So I mean, there's no way you could have ever met those expectations. The problem was most with the second film of the prequel trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Because that was like really a disaster, and the dialogue, oh my god, like I'm sorry, that was tears in my eyes, how bad that dialogue was. And basically because of that, everybody hates also that final part of the prequel trilogy, while The Revenge of the Sith is not a bad film at all.
I can't remember. I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, but
I have.
But people were so fed up after the second one of the prequel trilogy, nobody gave The Revenge of the Sith a real chance, and I think it's a shame because it has a lot of great things,
Except for the Frankenstein moment.
Yes,
A little bit
yes.
overcooked.
Is there a moment where like Darth Vader like gets reawakened or something?
But actually, the first time you see him as Darth Vader, basically,
It's like,
yeah,
no.
it was really like 70s or 80s action film no screams. Like, that was
It's
not.
a bit like Hammer Studio films.
Yeah, it was
Can I
bad.
just point out at this juncture that I was I don't know, I think I was maybe about 9 when I went to see
Lord of the Rings?
No, Phantom Menace.
Oh.
Mhm.
10, maybe 9 or 10.
Yeah.
No, hang on. Yeah, I would have been 9 or 10.
1999.
And we went to see it in the Odeon
Mhm.
in Oxford, on Oxford Circus. So that, no, Leicester Square, sorry, Leicester Square Odeon. And I was really excited, and it was brilliant, and I loved it. And I haven't seen it since then.
It's okay.
And I'm not going to,
don't
because
really-
in my head, and I loved Jar Jar Binks. Does that mean I was just a
Also-
really annoying
Yes,
child?
well, I didn't know, but the thing is, like, that character was specifically there, created for kids.
Yeah.
So that you liked it as a kid, that's sort of normal.
Okay.
Everyone older than your age hated Jar Jar
So
Binks.
I started to watch the Star Wars, episode 4, 5, 6, while I was about 9, 10, and I had a VHS, so this is before the DVD.
Wowza.
And I brought them. I brought them everywhere where they had a videotape recorder,
Just so you could watch them.
just to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1999, I was a little bit older, and I basically chose between The Matrix
Mm-hmm.
or Phantom Menace, and with all the backstory and all the Jar Jar Binks stuff, I never saw it in the cinema. Also because there was, at the trailers I saw, it was so childish,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at that time I was like, I would rather, I had kind of grown over it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying that The Matrix is like that. Matrix is more like a teenage boy. It's a little bit more.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Like a kind of black leather and that kind of stuff. But yeah.
So
Mhm.
we had
Different
the
time zones.
trilogy, the prequel trilogy,
And then, of course, Disney bought Lucasfilms for a shit ton of money.
4
And
billion.
yeah,
About 4 billion.
How much?
About 4 billion.
$4 billion
Yeah.
Dollars.
dollars,
Yes.
not yen.
Not euros. No.
So they bought it for a shit ton of money, and then of course, if you buy a property like that, then you want to make some money off of it. So
Mhm.
they first announced a sequel trilogy, and then also some spin-off films as well. And the first of the sequel trilogy was, of course, your beloved, David, The Force Awakens. Now, let me first give my opinion before you can
Alright, you go,
tell
go
us
for it.
your crazy opinion. No, just kidding. So, for me, obviously I wasn't born during the original trilogy. So for me, this was the first, film that I was actually experiencing, just as it was created and everything and things like that.
Mhm.
My expectations were high because I loved what J.J. Abrams did with the first new Star Trek film.
Mhm.
And I liked him. Lost was really good when he was running the show. After he
was.
left, it deteriorated. And after the writer's strike, it just was a disaster. But before that, it was really good. So my expectations were high because of him as well. For me, I think that he did exactly what he needed to do. So it doesn't make it a great film per se. What he needed to do was he needed to make an homage to the original trilogy and introduce the Star Wars universe to young people. That was what the mandate that Disney gave him, and that's what he did. Now, of course, like I mean, if you look at it, it's a bit of a copy,
There's a blueprint of the new
yeah,
world.
exactly. With a Death Star type thing again, with the plans to it being lost and needing to find out what the weakness is, etc., etc. A scene in a bar, just like Mos Eisley or whatever. I don't,
Yeah.
so the bar thing with the music. I mean, there's a lot of that in it, but for me, it wasn't enough for me to make it a detriment to the film, because I didn't see it as a one-on-one copy. I do feel that he brings his own sort of spirit to the film, and I think for me there was enough new stuff in it that it's a warranted sequel, and that's why I did enjoy the film and did not agree with your opinion.
No, I thought it was too much of a... I get what you mean, so he did fulfill the mandate that he was given, and the this goal of re-inspiring people who loved the first Star Wars, while also capturing
like Abraham.
Yeah. So I get it, but I just thought it was too homagey, and I thought it was playing too much to the people who liked Star Wars and saying, yeah, you'll like this, won't you? Because you like these things about Star Wars. And then there was Kylo Ren, who I just thought was a really poor Darth Vader surrogate. Terrible.
That's why they often call it like... There are like detractors, and there are also people who think positive about it, and they both could call it fan fiction, fan fiction service. That is a huge thing now.
Well, I guess J.J. Abrams is basically one big fan, isn't he? I think it contrasts with Star Trek, because the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, because that was something completely new. That was a completely new story.
Yeah, and also a new kind of tone.
Yeah.
Literally, because there were a lot of Star Trek fans who were like, whoa, I don't like this.
because it was enjoyable by the layman,
Exactly.
right? And I'm a huge Star Trek fan, just to point that out. I still thought it was like actually derivative, rather than homage. There is a fine line between homage and derivation, right?
There is, but there's also a little bit the divide, for Kylo Ren, because to me, Kylo Ren is in one film has already more character development than any other villain in the entire Star Wars universe. And some people call him like emo and a whiny character, but for me, his emotions that he have, is sort of warranted, and he's a much better actor, Adam Driver, than Hayden Christensen, or what's his name?
Who?
Yeah, Hayden Christensen,
who played Anakin, in the prequel trilogy, in the second and the third film of the prequel trilogy. So in that sense, I think, Kylo Ren has a lot of potential, and for me, people get too hung up on, when a villain actually shows emotion, because people, I think are more used to seeing cardboard, villains, who don't show emotion.
I don't want the villain in Star Wars to have a backstory and emotion. I just want him to be evil. I just want him to be scary and evil, and that's why they're scary. That's why Darth Vader was scary. You didn't know why he was evil. He was just bloody evil.
No, but in the end, it has for me it also was a big emotional payoff in the first trilogy that was shot, with the fact that he was the father.
Yeah.
That is for a lot of fans. It's also, it's not like very deep storytelling, but it's kind of age old. It refers to age-old stories of family and family being put up against each other.
And then they had it again kind of with the Han Solo thing.
It's kind of soapy, yeah. They
and then it was just that was too much. Oh God, I could see that coming a mile off, honestly. Yeah. Like an iceberg coming towards me,
Okay, I'm gonna say something. I enjoyed The Force Awakens, but what I had most fun with and Star Wars related was just these really short clips from SNL who are doing they're doing a dub like a dub. And I love the songs,
yeah.
the bad lip sync.
Yeah, the best.
I mean, it's also it doesn't. I mean, it shows the love for Star Wars, but it also shows that it can be completely ridiculous, and it can be, if you put it in a bit of other context, it's so funny and it's cute, but it's also just so fucking stupid. But it's great in that sense, you know, that you can kind of do that with that Star Wars legacy.
We're going to have to wrap this up.
Yeah, so
pretty soon, you know?
two small pieces of praise. One, you know, J.J. Abrams, like he wanted to create a new droid for this, also for probably toy production purposes. But you know, like, I mean, I was like, why did they have to create a new droid? But BB-8, to be honest, you know, great success, super cute.
Yeah.
I think nicely done. And secondly, I think it's Michael Giacchino who did the music, and I also loved him since Lost. And Michael Giacchino is a genius. Absolutely.
So you're looking forward to the new one?
100%.
Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer, so I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm bothered. I didn't see the other one, Rogue One. I didn't see that. I might never see it.
Rogue One is worth it though. Even the people who hate The Force Awakens do like.
Maybe I'm a man for Rogue One then. Who knows?
Yeah.
Roy, you looking forward to the next one?
I'm gonna watch the next one. Yeah.
I probably won't see it. I'll wait for it to come out.
We'll
on
make you
VHS.
see
I think,
Yeah.
but
We'll
with
kidnap
me it
you.
has
Okay.
it has a lot to do with.
We'll take it to the
nostalgia.
sunken place.
Yeah.
And then,
Hold my eyes open
Yeah,
like
exactly.
in Clockwork Orange.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you have been listening or watching, listening to or watching the last review show. We've been talking about Get Out, Scarface, and then some long discussion of the Star Wars franchise. You can find us on Twitter at Last Review Show. Go to lastreviewshow.com or find us on SoundCloud and YouTube. I've been here with
Joel.
and
Roy.
and I'm David Edgecombe. This has been the Last Review Show. Thanks very much for listening and or watching. Bye bye.
Ciao.